All right, so we're starting on office hours. Okay, so go over there then. Really? All right, hold on. Yeah, exactly. And I did have something where oh, I know, I do share screen and then this all goes away. Um, Glad that was all recorded for posterity. So yeah, so I did a code review, and one of the things that I mentioned was that test coverage needed to be more complete. So I think this is something that everybody can benefit from. Okay, so mocha and chai strategies, best practices, and then you were asking specifically how to deal with data when testing. Is that an okay summary of what you were asking about? Okay. Hold on, let me just, I am not great at keeping track of dates these days. Oh, it's a friend's birthday. Okay. Okay, so Celeste, did you have anything? Or Brittany, Kelsey, did you have anything else?
I have some questions
about school. So a sequel. Okay.
just like kind of visual structural things. Like I feel like I'm getting the pieces of it.
All right. Other
for me, the more mocha, better.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's basically split this in half, and we will do sort of half mocha chai and half SQL. Okay, so. Okay. All right, so yeah, so let's talk about, all right, I'm gonna, what do I want to do? I think I want to work on testing just a part of the to-do list. And in that way, I can talk about how to deal with data when testing, and then mocha and chai best strategies and best practices. Okay. So let's, and I don't have a to-do list solution handy. Does somebody want to give me your GitHub, and I will, let's
go there.
What's your GitHub handle? Should have known. Okay, and here we go. It is a popular repository. Okay, let's actually talk a little bit about Git while we're here. I'm going to clone this. Have you guys cloned stuff before?
Yes. Okay, here's another question. So anything I merge the branch will go to master, will go to this here. You see how it says I have two branches?
Yeah, setting a project.
So, and this kind of helps me with GitHub also, because I've been pushing the setting up projects branch. Does that merge with my master?
Eventually, you're probably going to want to merge with your master. Yeah, so in general, what you're probably going to, the use of branches, people use GitHub branches differently. And usually it's when you're starting to work on a new feature work on it on a branch. And then when you've decided that the new feature is ready and done, you'll push it back to master. So branches are more like for works in progress, whereas master is more for like, this stuff works.
So all that works.
Okay, all right.
Origin master dash u origin master.
No, just get pushed. Ah,
Push dash u origin master. Trust me, that was one of the things when I took the phase 1 test. That was one of the issues I had. I was like, trust me, during our phase test, GitHub went down. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like, we had all shit storing that one day. So yeah,
and that will push to your master.
I think it's actually set upstream. Let's do git push dash help. You guys, this is, yeah, I know. I love the helps. So let's get here, and we want to. Oh, it.
Oh, that's helpful though, because when I was pushing, it's like you don't have an upstream branch.
Yeah. So it's dash u or dash set upstream, and we can read more about it down here. For every branch that is up to date or successfully pushed, add an upstream tracking reference for used by argumentless git pull and in other commands. For more information, see branch. So here's a confession. I don't know a huge amount about Git, and I do not know. I'd have to do more research to understand what the upstream is.
That is very helpful.
that was one of the things I was like, I shouldn't see all my branches. I should only see master one.
Yeah. Okay.
You see, I had a bunch of branches, but you shouldn't see the branch like how it was listed.
Yeah.
And trust me, that changed my life. I was like, try doing that like almost every time you start a new branch. So normally you would do the git push. Yeah. Actually, you should be doing git push origin something, right? So the I usually do it when I have a brand new branch. So because sometimes you'll be pushing stuff that'll be you'll be on the master. Yeah, that was one of the things I was like, oh, I don't have to do that when I'm on the master. Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
but when you're on a branch.
Yeah, I think basically this is my understanding of it. And again, I'm not positive about this, but I think basically when you, like, every branch needs to have an upstream, basically where it was branched from. And master, if you don't set it up right, it doesn't have an upstream. So you just have to like set it, a master, like basically that master is the, like, its own upstream. I probably people would die hearing me say that, but yeah. I am not a Git expert. But
if you refresh, then I'm just concerned about having the most recent.
Oh, but I am going to do a git clone here. And git clone doesn't care what my current browser is saying about the Git repo. It's going to get whatever is most up to date from here. And it's not only going to get whatever is most up to date, it is going to get all of the branches. So, okay, so I'm cloning it. Fine. I guess I haven't cloned before. Oh, but I don't have my SSH set up here. So I am going to use HTTP instead. I have SSH set up for my other user. I'll set it up for this user at some point. So yeah, for SSH, if you use the SSH, you have to have, okay, let me set up my SSH here. But I have to be careful. I might have to turn off recording, like depending on what shows. So I'm going to go to GitHub. And so here I am, and I'm just going to be feeling my way out here. So I'm going to go into my settings, and here are my SSH and PGP keys. Okay. And so I have one for my personal MacBook Pro. That's because I use the same GitHub account. I have one for my Learners Guild MacBook Pro. And then I'm going to have to make one for my, this is my Learners Guild MacBook Pro for my Bonnie user. Now I'm going to have to make one for my presenter user, because it looks in the ~/.ssh folder. And I probably could do something clever with symbolic links, but for now I want to show you guys how to do this. So I'm going to make a new SSH key, and I'm going to call it Learners Guild MacBook Pro Presenter User. Okay. And then, okay, and here is where I do not, this is a key that I do not want other people to see. So this is where I am going to pause recording. Okay, I'm still generating the key, and so I'm gonna keep this on the recording. I had clicked the, guide to generating SSH keys here, and then I clicked generating a new SSH key and adding it to the SSH agent, and then and now I just copied and pasted this to my terminal, and enter the file in which to save the key. Great, that looks good to me. Enter the passphrase, no passphrase, same passphrase again, no passphrase. Then you get this fun little like ASCII representation of your SSH key. Random art, I'm not sure if that's for anything more than fun, but it might also just like be a quick, at a glance, are these two SSH keys the same? Okay, so now, okay, so generating, enter file, okay, we did no passphrase. Okay, and then adding your SSH key to the SSH agent. I actually don't want to do the SSH agent here, so I'm going to go back, and I just want to go back again. Okay, and now, oh, it forgot that I wanted a new SSH key. So, oh, it remembered what I wanted. All right, and so now for the key, this is where I have to remember whether I give it my public key or private key. And now I'm going to hide this. Okay, so really all it needs is my public key, and my public key is totally fine to share with the world. So this is fine. You guys can see it. No worries. It's my private key that you're not allowed to see. So great. So here it is. I'm going to add this SSH key. I'm going to give it my password. Okay. And so now I have that, and I should be able to clone this using SSH. And so essentially what's happening, remember CD minus? Do you remember what that does? It gets me back to where I was before my last CD. So I CD directly into ~SSH, and then if I CD minus, it's wherever I was before that. Right. So essentially what's going on here, let me see if I can summarize how public and private keys work. Not quickly. It's pretty it's very interesting and a little esoteric. But essentially like I'm putting something in a box. We'll talk about security some other time. So, yeah. But yeah, so The private key assures you that it's me, but I can do it in a way that without actually sharing the private key. It's pretty cool and not something that I have at the top of at my fingertips. Okay, so good. So it's been 20 minutes. We haven't talked about anything that anybody has asked about. All right, so now I can use this SSH and I can do a git clone and this SSH here. And I'm actually, no, this is fine. Okay. And so now it's cloning and it didn't have to ask me for any authentication at all. It used those keys for my authentication. The combination of the public key that was on the GitHub site and my private key assured it that I was who I said I was. In .ssh, that's the default location. It just knows. And I believe that's going to be a shell level thing if I set somewhere else for my private keys. I wonder if it's an environment variable. No, here's my old PWD and here's some sort of socket. So no, neither of those are, it's not an environment variable. Okay, fine. So now I have, so when I cloned it, it made a new directory. ls-lrt gives you the newest one at the top. Okay, so apparently I just cloned, oh no, sorry, the newest one at the bottom. The R means reverse, so just ls-lt gives you the newest one at the top. Great, to-do list. I piped it to head so that I only got the first few lines. Okay. So here I am, and here's Brittany's stuff. Any questions on what I've done so far? Are you serious? No. Okay. Even like me faltering like about the security stuff? Okay. So great. So let's awesome. Okay. So let's just talk about testing the add function. That's all I'm going to do for the next, I said I would spend half an hour, but I think I'm probably going to spend 15 minutes on SQL, and I'll do this for the next roughly half an hour. Yeah. Do you want to use mine? No, actually, I actually want just this. Thank you, though. Okay. So, so I see here I have a package. I have no package.json. You didn't do an npm init?
I did.
You did. Did you put package.json in your git ignore?
I did.
Package.json should not go in your git ignore.
Sorry, it's not in my git ignore. I just am not tracking it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So can you do a git add of your package.json?
So that's, yeah.
And then do a push. What branch are you on right now? You can type git branch. Okay, that's fine. Probably go to your master. Do you know how to change to your master? Git checkout master.
So switch to my master branch.
And now add package.json. You have to commit first. And then push origin master.
failed to push some references. Master fetch first.
Okay. I don't think I changed anything. Just hit return or get out of there. What? No. Just forget about making a commit message. Although, are you in VI? Do you have to do the escape : WQ? All right. Now I do a git pull. Aha, and I got my package.json. Oh, and then all that stuff I erased from test.js, it clobbered, but that's fine. Okay, so now that I have the package.json, how do I make sure that I have all the same packages installed that that Brittany does? npm install.
And that will reference package.json.
That takes the package JSON and it installs all the stuff that's in there. And there's a lot because you have all of that ESLint stuff, but that's definitely good. Okay, so now, great. So now I have chai and mocha, which is good. Because if I was working on test.js and I didn't have chai and mocha, I wouldn't be able to say const expect equals require chai dot expect. All right, that should look familiar, right? Okay. Now let's do, oh, and I wanted to test that add function. And so I'm going to import it from the commands here. Looks like you might not have been linting, Brittany.
See, in mine, it's 100.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
I'm not, it doesn't link my yes.
Yeah, we can talk about that later too. Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to do const add. Why do I have to put the dot there? Chai is in a different folder too.
Oh, because it's in the same to-do list project.
Yeah, it's because I wrote it. It automatically looks for chai in the node modules, but because I wrote it, I have to give it the actual path. If I did an npm install, then you don't have to give it the path. It automatically looks in node modules. Okay, so let's go, and add is exporting add. So if I go back to test, this should be fine because this require is just the add function. Okay, so let's do a describe. Oh, will that make you happier? Oh, I'm in tests. So it's actually ... Linting, so helpful. Okay, so I'm going to describe, and I'm going to say I'm just testing add. How many arguments does describe take? Takes 2. What's the second one? Great. Okay. So now I am going to give some its. And all right, I'll do this instead, but I think, well, just okay. Okay, so now, yeah, I know I don't like you either. Okay, so now I'm going to say it adds a function, or it adds a task. It adds a task when file is empty. Okay. And then let's do another. It adds a task when file contains items. Do those seem like two reasonable things to test?
That's a basic function of add, right? So the first one will test if it creates a file and then adds to it.
Yeah, you want to make sure that it works when the file is empty and that it also works when the file contains items. Is there anything else for add that we should be testing? Any other weird things that might go on?
Well, just something that I kind of always do. My first test is, well, we say if the file is empty. I don't test if the file is empty. I always test the function itself so it knows it's.
Okay, all right. So we can say it should. Oh, and all. Actually, I am going to change my language here. I'm going to say should.
So my first it is like it should be a function. So the first one goes, yeah, I am a function, and then it's like, okay, go from there.
All right. So now we can.
Should do this.
Okay.
This function should return this.
Okay.
Those are the three. Three things you majorly test.
Okay, and yeah, let's look back at our ad. And is add returning anything?
Success message.
Well, it's not returning it though. It's just printing it. So but I do want to make sure should print a success message. And I can also say it should return undefined, because that's right now what this function is returning. I haven't specified anything for it to return, so it should return undefined.
Should return a message saying to find the task.
What do you mean by that? Oh, well, no. It's just yeah, the function itself. Yeah, the function itself is just going to return undefined. Okay. So it should return undefined. Okay, and let's put that up here because it's sort of a more basic one. Okay. All right. Is there anything else that we might test for the add function? I would say another thing you might want to test is that when there's no task, there's an error. But I would not put that under the add function testing. I would put that under my testing of the control structure of, this tasks file. This tasks file should be the thing that throws an error if there's no actual task. So I would say that is something you should test, but it's not really the add function's responsibility. It's more this control file's responsibility. Does that make sense?
And why did we pick the these like 5.
Why did we pick these? So, like Misha was saying, just basic, is it a function? What the function returns, and I would, if the function was returning something other than undefined, I probably would have a lot more tests for, does it return this in this situation? Does it return this in this situation? Does it return this in this situation? And yeah, and then I wanted to think about basically different code paths. You want to make sure that your tests are exercising every line of your code, right? And so in this case, you actually, I don't think, do anything when the file, you don't create the file if it's empty. Oh, you do. You do it up here. Okay. But you don't do it within the add function, which means, do you know what when this code runs? Sorry, Brittany, this is turning into a little bit of a live code review for you. So, yeah. Do you know when the lines 4 through 6, when those are going to run?
Well, I had it in the add function and it wasn't running, and so I took it out of the add function. And I didn't know if that was an issue with like scope of it or.
Okay. So this right now is going to run when we do this require. When you do the require, it runs every line of the file. So it's going to run this line, 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 it's going to run this line. It's going to run all of these lines too, but lines 8 through 22 are simply defining a function. They're not actually doing anything. But lines 4 through 6, those are doing something. And those are going to get run when I do that import.
And tasks.
And tasks imports it. I'm sorry, this is not Python. Tasks requires it. And so when that require happens, that's when this is going to run. And I would say that that's not good form. I would put that in here. Okay. And you were saying you were having some trouble with it. So we'll yeah.
There's other times that needs to happen too.
So we can, so how did you deal with that, Kelsey? The fact that it had to happen multiple times?
Pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, what I would do. Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, so that works too. I probably would take all of this and well, yeah, you definitely could put that in the tasks file. In which case, yeah.
Oh yeah, mine was in the task file.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, if you want to make sure before you even start that the tasks file exists, then yes. I'm trying to think of a reason not to do this. You want to make sure you're not doing it too frequently, but I think you do need to check every time the task file runs whether or not this file exists. So, okay. Okay, cool. So, and okay. All right, great. So yeah, and so now, I mean, so this is more just me. So now this actually isn't so much about exercising all of the lines of code, but it's more about me thinking about ways that it might break. What might break it? What are the different situations I might get into where it might break? So So now I'm going to get a little bit more into Chelsea's question. Sorry, Chelsea. Sorry, Kelsey. Into Kelsey's question about how do we deal with the fact that you probably already have a tasks.json file, and that tasks.json file contains important information. It contains the things that you need to do, and you don't want to be messing with it with your tests. That's one reason that you never want to use production data in your tests, because you do not want to mess with, you don't want to, like let's say you were Facebook and you were doing testing and you were testing deleting a user, you don't want to delete like an actual user during your tests, right? The other reason that you don't use production data during your tests is that you want your tests to be entirely deterministic. You don't want any sort of pre-existing state to determine whether your tests pass or fail. You want to make sure that you are working with absolutely known data. You don't want any factors that may or may not be true. And the way to work with absolutely known data is to have your own test data and only work with that. So this is true when you're storing your data in a file. It's also true when you're storing your data in a database. You never want to use your actual database for testing, your production database. You make a new test database and you use that for testing instead. Okay. Cool. So, all right. So how am I going to do that? Celeste, SQL might have to fall by the wayside. I'll do a few minutes at the end, if nothing else. How am I going to do that? I am going to, okay, there are different ways that you can do it, but here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use an environment variable to determine whether or not I'm testing. So right now, I'm going to look and see whether my environment variable or whether my environment has anything, okay. All right. So I'm just making sure I don't have anything in my environment right now. And I don't. So now what I want to do is in my package.json, I am going to, for my tests, instead of just running mocha, I'm going to run export node or npm mode equals test. And then the and is wait for this to finish successfully and then run mocha. So now let's go back to test.js, or actually, sorry, I'm going to go back to tasks, and I'm going to say, this is just me. Yeah, this is just me running tasks. Oh man, there's a bunch I want to do here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to say, and how do I get to that environment variable? I use process.env. Process.env is an object with key value pairs. The keys are the environment variable names, and the values are the environment variable values. So I can say npm mode and then I'm going to say if that is test, I'm going to say console log we're testing. That's all I'm going to do for now. Yeah, and I'm gonna actually have it do a little bit more than this in a minute. But so I'm doing console log, we're testing. Now I need to make sure that I'm importing this, requiring this in my tests. Because in my tests, I want to make sure that these lines run as well. So I am going to also require, I don't need to save anything, but I'm going to require was there a little mind blowing going on over there? Okay, make sure I'm recording again. Okay. So now, if I do an npm test, it's going to run this export npm mode equals test and then run mocha. When it runs mocha, it's going to run this file. When it runs this file, it's going to require tasks, which is going to run this file. And it's going to run these lines of code. So it should print out we're testing. You guys cool with that? Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. Okay, well, it definitely did this export npm mode and mocha. It did not print out we're testing. Why not? I don't know. Let's try and figure it out. So first, let's make sure it runs this file. No, it's actually not running the tasks file. So let's go back. Do I have to export something in order for it to? Just want to see. This is me not really knowing Node all that well. No, it's not the fact that I'm not exporting something. So let's go back to my tests. Let me just make sure if I run tasks. I shouldn't have to.
Yeah, I don't have.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. All right. I am going to. So little time. So many things I want to do in so little time. I think I might know. So basically, this require is erroring out, but we aren't getting access to the error because
Maybe it's something else, but because at the top you don't require FS.
oh, that sounds like a perfectly lovely interpretation.
Before I was running that in my add file.
What's your problem? Okay. Nope, it's still doing no such file or directory. I want to do, no, I don't. Semicolons are optional. What I need is I want to use stat instead of exists. Yeah, I want fstat sync or fstat sync. Stat is a little bit more reliable than exists, but basically does the same thing. I just want to see whether this, nope. Oh, we're not actually writing to any particular file. Is that right? Is that the problem? All right. Okay. This is not going as planned.
See, mine, mine runs though.
Yeah, well, it does. Right now, the problem is not the tests. The problem is me getting the tasks to run. So, right, I'm going to just, for now, I'm just going to comment this out just for now. And actually, for reasons I'll talk about later in my remaining 8 minutes, I'm going to comment this out as well. Let's just see if we can do. Okay, running tasks. Okay, so, and now if I do npm test, yeah, this is why you should. So let's actually console log. Oh, but it didn't actually even console log running tasks. Okay, I'm going to return to you guys this afternoon with a better, with me not so flaily on this. And I'm going to just do 7 minutes of SQL. But this afternoon, I will talk to you guys more about how to use this M test with actual, with an actual test file. Yeah, because I'm just bumping up against my lack of experience with Node here and not being able to debug things quickly. Okay, let's talk about SQL. Okay, so SQL. SQL. In general, here's the deal. With SQL, you have a relational database. Relational database means you have a database that's made up of tables. Tables means you have this square data where the data is made up of columns, sort of properties of each thing in that table, and rows, which represent an entity in that table. So for example, so if we have a table and it is pets, which apparently is my favorite kind of data, so pets is the table. And let's say its columns are an ID, because every table needs to have a primary key. And the primary key is something that is unique to that row, and it is never null. So we're going to have, so here are my columns. So we're going to have an ID, we're going to have a name, we're going to have a species, and we're going to have a born at. Why is it better for me to put the birth date in there than to put the age? The birth date doesn't change. I do not want to be continually updating my table. And there's a convention to make columns that are dates to be something underscore at, created at, born at, deleted at, modified at. Indication that it's a date. Okay, so so these are columns. I have rows. My first row and I'm going to say February 1st to I wasn't actually there. Okay, so and the second one is going to be Mochi, and Mochi is a rabbit, and Mochi was born at
July 1st, 2010.
Okay, so another thing about each of my columns is that it has to have a data type. So my ID is going to be an integer. My name is going to be a string. My species is going to be a string. My born at is going to be a date. Okay, so I can make my table. 10:57. I'll do a SQL lecture. I can do the SQL lecture tomorrow or next week. Which would you guys prefer? I was thinking about doing asynchronicity tomorrow, but I decided that it was too complicated and outside of phase 1. It's really more of a phase 2 topic. So I was going to do JavaScript or object orientation. What?
Yeah, I was going to say if she needs something like for it right now.
Yeah.
Di just did a video on SQL. So if you're in our videos channel, you can watch Di's. She did a whole thing on SQL. Okay, cool. And like she helped me with like Postman. Now that I have Postman, it's gonna really make sense because you get to see your table. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we can talk more in the Slack channel about. I'll give you an option for lecture topics for tomorrow. But yeah. So right. I mean, like, so basically, I'd create that table and then do a bunch of queries on it. But we're out of time. So sorry, guys. I know this wasn't the most informative office hours ever. But yes, I will return this afternoon with a brief, let's say at 3 o'clock, I'll return with a brief thing about how to manage your test data versus your production data. Yeah, and they'll be voting tomorrow for the lecture.
Workshop for SQL? No, I just did the SQL. Oh,